was Jose Mourinho fairly sacked by his former clubs? The special one has won over 25 trophies in his illustrious career and is considered one of the greatest managers of all time. So let's take a look back and see, was Jose Mourinho fairly sacked? In 2004, Mourinho joins Chelsea after winning the Champions League with Porto. During his first tenure at Chelsea, Mourinho won multiple titles, including 2 Premier Leagues, and created the best defensive Premier League side in history, only conceding 15 goals in the 04-05 season. Now, in the start of the 2007 season, Chelsea began with a string of poor results, being winless in their last 3 games and drawing to Rosenborg in the Champions League. Although Mourinho was Chelsea's most successful manager ever at the time, he was unable to replicate his domestic results to European competition. This began to unsettle Abramovich, who was Chelsea's owner at the time, and Jose Mourinho and Chelsea Football Club decided to mutually part ways. Considering the tension between Abramovich and the fans with the poor European results, it is understandable to see why he was let go. However, there were still 3 years left in his contract, and he had won a trophy every single season he was at Chelsea. Maybe he could have been given another year or 2 to have possible European success at the club, but nonetheless, he was let go. Mourinho ends up joining Inter Milan after Chelsea, winning the treble in 2010, and decides to make the big move to join club Real Madrid. His first season in Spain was not the best in particular, as he lost the league title and UCL to Barcelona, but secured the Copa del Rey against them. The following year, however, Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid have a record-breaking La Liga season as they win the most games in a single season, securing the La Liga title. Mourinho ends up signing a 4-year extension with the club in 2012, looking to be the next long-term Real Madrid manager. However, things slowly turned sour for Jose Mourinho as they were unable to retain the La Liga title and lost the Copa del Rey final to rivals Atletico Madrid. Now, for a little bit of backstory, in December of 2012, Mourinho makes the big decision to bench starting goalkeeper Iker Casillas. The true reason why was never really revealed, but supposedly Mourinho thought that Iker Casillas was a mole to the media, spreading internal matters to Spanish newspapers. This issue alone began to cause a lot of tension in the locker room, and one player who was not really happy about this was captain Sergio Ramos. Not only that, Mourinho had issues with star player Cristiano Ronaldo, stating maybe he thinks that he knows everything and that the coach cannot improve him anymore. 3 days after Real Madrid's Copa del Rey loss, Florentino Perez announced that Jose Mourinho would leave the club due to mutual agreement. Although Jose Mourinho looked to be the next great Real Madrid manager to take him to glory once again, him losing the locker room was the main reason why he had to leave the club. The special one then decides to make a surprise return to Chelsea, finishing off what he started. In his first season back, Mourinho finished 3rd, only 4 points behind champions Manchester City, but this led him to completely revamp the Chelsea squad. Bringing in new signings Diego Costa and Cesc Fabregas, Chelsea once again win another Premier League title as well as the League Cup. And all seemed well until the start of the 2015-2016 season, where Chelsea, after a really poor string of performances, ended up being in 16th place in December and also being knocked out of the League Cup. The relationship between star player Eden Hazard and Jose Mourinho began to deteriorate as well, and this led to, once again, another Jose Mourinho sacking by Chelsea. It's a tale that seems to always consistently haunt Jose Mourinho, where he has a very good second season, winning league titles, breaking records, doing all great things. But once that 3rd season begins, he just can't replicate that same energy. But just a couple of months later, Jose Mourinho decides to join Manchester United. His first season went really well, surprisingly, and although he was not able to capture the Premier League title with United, he won the Europa League, the Community Shield, and the League Cup. And after strengthening the squad in the summer, United wanted to make a push for that Premier League title. And although the season began well for them, a poor string of results in the winter schedule widened the gap between them and rivals Manchester City. They ended up finishing at 2nd place, and Mourinho claimed that this was his greatest accomplishment at Manchester United so far. And when you look at the history, this was United's highest table finish since the Sir Alex Ferguson era. But once again, in Mourinho's 3rd season at Manchester United, poor form continued, and in their first 17 games, they were 19 points behind 1st place. And that was a last straw for the United board, as they end up sacking Jose Mourinho in December of 2018. Now, many people do say that this was an unfair sacking because this was the most trophies that a United manager had won since the Sir Alex Ferguson era. However, you could kind of see the energy, the emotion that Mourinho was presenting in press conferences he wasn't really his best mentally. Maybe it was the pressure that got to him, maybe it was the media, but he was so erratic with his decisions and his antics on and off the pitch that maybe it was best for him to leave United. But after a short hiatus, Mourinho thought that it'd be best to now once again return to managing and join Tottenham Hotspur in November of 2019. His first season was average at best, finishing in 6th place, but the following season, it looked very promising, having a huge win in the North London derby and ending up in 1st place in December. However, the start of the 2021 calendar year was not the best at all, being knocked out of the Europa League and FA Cup and losing multiple home games. Now, Mourinho did end up going to a League Cup final with Spurs, facing off against Manchester City. But before he got the opportunity to ever even coach that game, he got sacked. It's almost like Spurs didn't even want a chance to win a trophy, period. I mean, it makes no sense. But if you kind of look at it, it felt like Spurs, the board in general, made up their mind that they were going to end up sacking Jose Mourinho. And so they didn't want a possible cup final win to really kind of mess up their minds when they were already sure that they were going to sack Jose. We fast forward a couple of weeks later to May 4th, 2021, and club AS Roma announced that Jose Mourinho will be their new manager. And Mourinho begins to make a huge revamp of the squad, having a full summer transfer window, bringing in new defenders, new strikers, and the season starts off well as they go through the Europa Conference League playoffs and qualify for the competition. The first half of the season was interesting for Jose. I mean, Roma's results were very inconsistent, where they would have a 6-1 win against CSK Sofia, but then lose horribly to Bodo Glimt in the Europa Conference League, and then in the league lose to giants like Inter, Juventus, Fiorentina, not having great form in the league either. The second half of the season was much better for Roma as they finished in 6th place in the league, but are in the Europa League conference final. And Roma sealed the deal, winning 1-0 against Feyenoord in Albania, securing their first title in 11 years. And once again, Jose Mourinho making history, being one of 3 managers to win all 3 of the European competitions. In the following season, in order to avoid financial fair play breaches, Roma only spent 7 million euros in the summer transfer window, but they end up snagging Andrea Belotti and Paulo Dybala on free transfers. Tiago Pinto, who was Roma's sporting director at the time, said that Roma's main goal in all of this was to qualify for the Champions League. But Jose Mourinho thought that this was not very easy to achieve. When responding to a question by the media, he said, "Champions League qualification would be more than a miracle. We could write history and want to continue doing it. But qualifying for the Champions League when spending 7 million euros on the transfer market is more than history, more than a miracle. It's Jesus Christ coming to Rome and having a walk around the Vatican." And Mourinho, whether intentional or not, was right. This miracle was not meant to happen, as Roma end up being 6th place again in Serie A, failing to qualify for the Champions League. However, this miracle is not totally impossible because Roma were in the Europa League final and they had a possibility, if they won it, to make it to the Champions League. But there was one issue. They were facing an opponent in Sevilla who are serial winners for the Europa League. And unfortunately, miracles aren't always supposed to happen, as Roma fail to win against Sevilla on penalties and once again do not reach the Champions League. In the following season, Mourinho stays with Roma once again, but due to financial fair play issues, they could only sign free agents and loans in the summer. And the signings were not good enough once again, leaving Roma to end up being in 9th place by January and Jose Mourinho being sacked from a club again. Currently, Jose Mourinho is now with Turkish side Fenerbahce, a club that has not won a league title in a decade. They currently sit in 2nd place, 3 points behind leaders Galatasaray, who are looking for their 3rd straight league title. One of the most polarizing figures in world football, and as iconic as he is, consistency is not his best friend. But Jose Mourinho's legacy and impact on the beautiful game makes him worthy of the nickname the Special One.